Picture this. You just got home after a tiring day at work. You browsed online and saw a new figure drops or found the listing of a figure that you want. You visualize the figure on your shelf, completing that display that you've been building for quite some time now. You know in yourself that this figure would be a great addition to your collection. So you tell yourself that you really want that figure. Worse, your mind is telling you that you need that figure. You remember that you just recently made another figure purchase a few days ago, but you kept thinking that you might not be able to find a great deal such as this, or the price will surely skyrocket on the secondary market. So you convince yourself that you really cannot miss this figure and would really like to have it to reward yourself for your hard work. So you placed your order, telling yourself that this will be the last purchase for this month, and the cycle repeats. Whenever I watch videos and read posts of our fellow collectors about their tips on collecting, I usually hear them say that collecting is a marathon and not a sprint. And embracing the marathon mindset means that we need to treat the hobby as a lifelong journey rather than rushing yourself into getting the figures at once. And as someone who works 9 to 5, I have to admit that my budget for my figures is limited and it can be tempting to overspend whenever I come across a figure that I really like. That is why I wanted to share the lessons I've learned and the practices that I personally follow to manage my collecting budget during this marathon. Starting with number one is by setting a monthly hobby budget. We were always taught about the difference between our needs and wants when we were little, and just like you and me, there are other things that we need to prioritize like rent, food, and bills before we spend on our hobby. Which is why I base my monthly budget for my figures from what is left after I settle all my obligations. By having a set amount of monthly budget, I can ensure that I can buy my target figure guilt-free and prevent overspending. But if there are times that I come across an item that I really cannot miss which costs more than the allotted budget, I always ask myself if I would be fine selling a figure from my current collection or if I'll be okay with skipping a purchase for the next month. Number two is by creating and prioritizing my wish list. I mentioned earlier that action figures are considered wants and not needs. But if you plan to collect in the long run and wanted to do it wisely, planning your lineup is a good practice in order for us to determine what we need on our collection. This prevents me from buying random figures that I'll regret buying in the future or may cause me to miss on a figure that I like more. In order to do this, I focus on characters or designs that bring me long-term satisfaction. This means collecting figures that I personally connect with or pieces that help complete the display that I am building. I also categorize my wish list by making a ranked list of must-haves, nice-to-haves, and only if cheap, so that whenever I come across an action figure that I like, I can properly evaluate which one to prioritize. You can also create your own list, but personally, I would recommend basing your list from the figures that you truly love and that will bring meaning to your collection. And the third from this list is tracking my pre-orders, which is something that I personally overlooked previously because placing one feels free or cheap because you can reserve an item that you like and settle the whole amount on a later time. But what I learned is that placing too many pre-orders at once can catch a collector off guard. There are times where a lot of my pre-orders or pre-ordered items from different sellers arrive all at once, which forced me to sell some of my collections and spend beyond my allotted budget for this month, which I want you to also prevent as much as possible because without a list, you'll be forced to react instead of choosing from your pre-orders. And whenever funds get tight, tracking lets me decide which pre-order to keep which to cancel, and which to delay. So, just to summarize, I avoid overspending by making sure to set a monthly hobby budget. I also make a wish list to know which figures I want to prioritize and to avoid impulse buying. And lastly is by tracking my pre-orders in order to protect both my money and peace of mind. You may also have your own strategy on how you manage your collecting expense, so I would appreciate if you'll take some time to comment them down below. And if you like this kind of content, consider subscribing to this channel. I do wish you a happy new year and I'll see you in the next one.